1940, the Second World War was raging on. Winston Churchill walked down Downing Street and turned to descend down the stairs. Upon entering the door, he declared, "This is the room from which I will direct the war." Welcome to the 825 Technologies podcast. We're back from a long hiatus. I'm Andy.
I'm Tim.
And it's been, I think, roughly a year since we found ourselves in the podcast studio, Tim.
Wow.
I know. We've been busy, so that's good.
Right.
But, you got to prioritize sometimes, and this kind of took back seat. So we're sorry to any of the listeners out there that stuck with us and asking you, come on back. We're going to get back into a groove.
Hurry up.
Yeah. So our bad. Well, this episode, we are going to dive into secure communications, which is a fun little thing. In the military, they have something called a SCIF. And so the SCIF is like a way that you can secure your communication. And this all started way back in 1936. And what happened was the British Air Ministry declared that they had a prediction that the bombing in London and in England would take almost 250,000 casualties, like basically 200,000 lives.
That's a lot.
Every week.
That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Every single week. So they really wanted then to take a step to secure some communications to make sure, their intel, where they were moving people or where they had important operation centers, weren't so easily discovered. So that's where Sir Leslie Hollis was tapped to lead a team, and he converted this dusty basement beneath the government offices near Downing Street into what became the first modern war room. And so the war room eventually evolved into what is known as a SCIF. But the first one was this room. It had reinforced walls. It had sandbags. I know, right?
Right.
Only it was that easy to secure communications now. Wooden doors, which, better than glass doors that were there. And special telephone lines and communication equipment to kind of keep things separate, harder to intercept. And then they also had flood doors because this was under ground level. It was actually technically below the how do you pronounce that? Thames, the Thames River. So they had pumps in there as well to help with rising water and things of that nature. And it was in 1940. Winston Churchill went down there. So 4 years after, Hitler was basically on the, I guess 1938 is when he invaded Czechoslovakia. And that's the same time Leslie Hollis was tapped to be the lead. So a couple years at least that Winston Churchill finally made it down there. So it was pretty cool. Yeah. So this first war room, it was staffed 24 hours. Different military branches, all of the different ones were in there, operated out of it. There was a special cabinet room for very high-level strategic meetings. And then they had these, really cool phone lines. And they traversed the whole Atlantic Ocean, actually.
Oh.
I know. Wow. So it was a direct line, to the outside world in a lot of ways. So then in, World War II, things got really rough before they got better. And during that time, though, the U.S. recognized this is a good idea that Britain has. Let's adopt this. And eventually, we adopted war rooms, and then they turn into SCIFs, which are sensitive compartmented information facilities. And they're pretty cool. So now they're mobile. People can set them up in hotel rooms or anything like that. So
let's say I know that like White House itself has something down below or something. And,
yeah. And the president has 2 lines on his desk.
Right.
You get the line, non-secure line. Yeah. I wonder if he accidentally ever ordered Domino's on the secure line, and they were like, "What's?"
You have what is it? The Morse code that still they probably use.
Yeah.
Lots of tapping.
Yeah. man. So yeah, that's the fun right there, man. You get these secure, compartmented information facilities, and it keeps things, tight, keeps it secure, keeps people that shouldn't know in a not know basis. And frankly, in our business world today, this isn't something that we should take lightly. We should actually look at this and say, how do we make modern day skiff for our companies, right?
Right.
Kind of cool. So this episode, we're going to talk about the three, what I would say, pillars of um, secure communication in your organization. And we're going to narrow down, right? It's always better to go deeper. We can do another episode later about something else. But one of the biggest areas, I think, is email right now, where sometimes, not that people are loose lipped, but, there's an attachment that might have more information than somebody knew, and it's going out. And it's not bad that it's being sent to a partner, but it would be bad if somebody intercepted it.
Oh,
Maybe,
oops.
yeah, got some intellectual property or some patented research, or research that you're getting ready to patent, rather. It could be bad, right?
Right.
So, or banking information.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or if you are an orthodontist or a dentist, credit card information or a social security number or a bank account number or any of those things where an agency could come back and hit you with a fine. Those are all things we got to tidy up and be secure about. So, three pillars. Number one is going to be human training, always, right? The human firewall,
Absolutely.
that's important. You got to train the human firewall. If they're employees in your organization, they better know your security standards. Then we're going to look at anti-phishing solutions, because phishing is a big deal. Let alone somebody accidentally sending information to somebody you know. Worse would be someone sending information to someone they think they know.
Ooh, we don't want that.
No, those fishers. And then finally, we'll take a dive into encrypted email systems, especially useful if you're, a therapist, or you're in a doctor's office, a dental office, anywhere that you need to encrypt emails by a standard such as HIPAA. This is where we'd get into encrypted email systems, what they entail, and all of that. So, yeah. Well, Tim, do you want to walk us down real quick some infrastructure breakdown? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's three big ones we look at. One's the DNS record information. Three of the big ones we look at, are like the DMARC. DMARC is very, very helps protect anything like that. I mean, you look at your emails, you ensure that something in your system is there implemented when you're passing things information around in the same domain. Um, Another thing we look at, what else was there? The TXT records. Another one like that. Often it's like something a lot of people use with our clients, like Google itself. Google likes to verify that it's you, not someone else. That's
Yeah.
always a good one.
Yeah, and then get those sender policy framework records in those
Right,
TXT
right.
records.
Because
Yeah,
it could be you, but somewhere else, and we don't want that. So another one would be your SRV records, like on your phone. You don't want someone to be tapped in your phone listening in.
yeah,
That's why they want to verify it's you. You want to make sure you're talking to that person instead of someone bouncing around.
yeah, and
So,
that's really big in like VoIP
right.
communication. If you've got a VoIP phone system and there's not a SRV record set up, then
It's no good.
yeah, no good.
Um, another one, another big one is the encryption cipher methodology. Um, it's a system that is used to fix the rules, ensure that it's what it is when it comes in. It breaks down all like the different kinds of ciphers. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have something on that.
Well, I think that's where you really see the benefit of encrypted emails, is that it's not just TLS or some other secured method of the way that it's, or the line that it's carried on. That's really what your SSL or TLS and email handles is the channel secure. But the encryption, like that actual cipher, uh, make sure you're traveling on an encrypted channel, but then also that the message itself, going back to like the days of Washington and the Revolutionary War, there was a cipher they wrote in weird codes. So technically, while it's being transported, your email's in a weird code, and when it gets to the other side, you'll get a key to like undo the code and read it. So, yeah, modern
I
day
see some
spies.
pretty cool things they use for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Cipher
useful.
a different kind of book, lay out on a piece of paper or something. Then sure, that's that person who sent it or something.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, another one we talk about is firewall configuration is best practice. Ensure that you have the latest technology you can. We ensure that your security is on your firewall, so any packets that come in and out are protected, because we want to make sure that you're working on something and then there's no protection there. It gets out the whole time, like Andy was mentioning, about your banking system, banking information to. Uh, so that's what we want to look at, is make sure your firewall has the best configuration for any kind of security. Um, but yeah, that's a good start.
yeah, and I mean, even now, our firewall systems that we utilize, we have a real time learning algorithm that identifies, nefarious IP addresses, whether it's through FBI bulletins or through like Cisco's Talos system. Once an IP is added as a bad actor, type of a situation, then it says, okay, we're going to block that whole IP. So then, if there is an email that's spoofed that comes in from that IP, it never even gets through because it knows, oh, bad actor. We're not taking that
Yep,
IP
right.
address.
You don't match the internal internet.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I mean that's pretty big, and I think the big thing. Wow. Welcome to the jungle of alerts. There. Sorry, everybody at home. That was a loud ding.
Do do.
Yeah. So I think what we come into, the one of the big things is it's always changing. Like if you look back at World War II and you see this, old room with sandbags, pumps, and a phone line that's secure, versus today, the more connected we get, obviously, the more there's a need to step up our security on a lot of fronts. And the more areas that you're trying to defend, obviously, the more expensive it gets. And so the most recent numbers were saying that any organization spends anywhere between 4 to 6% of their total revenue on IT. Um, in case you were wondering, Tim, which I knew you were, we are able to get our clients. I mean, I'm proud of this number. We average 2.3%.
That's
We are
wow.
like we are the special forces of delivering value in the IT world is what that means to me.
That's a great that we
Yeah.
take care of everyone.
Yeah. So if you're one of our clients, I think you probably recognize the value that we deliver, no doubt. But when you compare it with real world numbers, it's kind of,
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's good for us to see that too. An
right.
objective measure of how are we measuring up? Man, we're killing it. We're
That's
destroying
awesome.
it, which is great. But things always change. Software changes, new vulnerabilities come out. I mean, the common vulnerabilities, the CVEs that are hitting are at a record pace right now. And so I think as a business leader, especially if you're in any way tied into IT, you've got to recognize we cannot rest. Like if you're only examining your IT posture every year, that's not going to cut it anymore. It's got to be quarterly, if not monthly, maybe even more often, to see, hey, are we running, for instance, Fortinet firewalls? Oh, if we are, then we've got this laundry list of vulnerabilities that just were released in January that are enormously critical. Um, so if you're only reviewing that every year, then
There's
let's hope your reviews in February, not in January, because you won't hit it for 11 months, and 11 months will be a long time for people to try to infiltrate your systems.
right.
So yeah, and the game is bigger now too. It's not just to gain information. The game is to cause disruption so that they can raise revenue. I think that's the biggest thing with ransomware. Like, hey, your files are locked. You want them back? You got to pay us. So
We take Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah. So it leads us into leadership corner naturally. The idea of changing, of being on your toes and ready to adapt and move. So Viktor Frankl, bringing it back to World War II again, right? Because Viktor Frankl actually lived through Nazi Germany concentration camp. Wrote a great book too. If you get a chance, yeah, Viktor Frankl, Meaning of Life. It's really, really good. But he said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
I like it.
Yes.
I agree.
So, we can't necessarily change how many bad actors are out there. We can't change how fast technology is changing. Um, those are things that we need to be aware of. But we can change how we approach them, how we handle them, who we partner with, who we trust, those type of things. So, that ability to adapt to change is vital. It's important to grow. It's something we've always done, Tim. I mean,
Right.
we were just on a meeting this morning talking about how often we've changed even project management systems to evolve to be more efficient and streamlined,
Right.
which
Just
helps us keep our
right.
costs down. So then our clients'
True.
costs are down, you know.
Right.
So yeah, that's a big thing. I think if it's something that you're struggling with as a leader, I think it's good to get a paradigm around the fact that there's things you can control, there's things you can't control, and there's things that you can influence. And so put your energy into things you can control. Let any extra energy go into things you can influence, and the things you can't control that are outside of your sphere of control, just just deal with them. Just let them be. Like Mel Robbins is saying lately, let them. You know, do you?
Do
So
you?
yeah. So real quick in closing here. Let's see. We've gone over World War II, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first war room was down there in 1940s. Winston Churchill started using it under government buildings on Downing Street. That's kind of cool. Uh, yeah, we learned about some modern threats, some things that you need in your IT organization, now to make sure that you're more protected, especially on email.
Right.
That's big. We learned that security changes every month.
Every month or every day.
Man, you're not wrong there. It does sometimes change every day. Yeah. And, the funniest part is even who you're working with can change from day to day. Just last week, out of nowhere, one of our vendors got bought out by another company just
Hey,
overnight. Yep.
surprise.
So you're like, well, hey, this is interesting. Then you have to look at this new company. What are their privacy practices, and is it still
Right.
a good product to offer? And those are all important things to do. But yeah, and then I'd say like as a practical application, really, there's some key takeaways. One is human training. I think
That's
that's
a
pretty
big
big.
one. I think it is.
I think that's the biggest. Whether it's training your people on what phishing is, or helping them understand what ransomware looks like, or how quickly malware can spread on the network and why immediate action and a good response strategy that everybody's trained on is so important. Um, really training the people in your organization, that's going to be your best return on value.
It's like, I saw email. It looked like yours, but it wasn't.
Yep. And that's as simple as it has to be at first.
And then all they do is click a link that somebody sent. And there goes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. When the other interesting thing about training your staff and your team on security is it instantly lets them know that it's important to the organization's culture to be secure,
mhm.
right?
Right.
I think sometimes we just wander out there and like, well, everybody knows what's in my head as a leader, so we're good to go. But yeah,
Oops.
Tim can attest that I'm probably more guilty of that than we'll ever know.
Hey,
Um,
I clicked on lots of links.
well, no, not you. I mean, just like as a leader, sometimes you assume everybody knows what you're thinking and where you're going, but I
Right.
think you have to be very specific and like, hey, we're training on this because it's important, that type of thing. Yeah, you don't want exactly. Yeah. So I think training humans, that's huge,
It is.
especially if that human is a professional mammal. They really could benefit from that on the professional side. Yeah. And then I think the other big thing is layering your security stack. Like you talked about, Tim, the DNS records.
Right.
That's huge. We have another program too that helps with phishing.
Yeah, we like it. It seems like everyone likes it. A
Yeah,
lot of our clients.
yeah. So we actually use Iron Scales. It's a great product. It's approachable price wise for most organizations, um, and you can send out phishing simulations through it. You can actually um, start to train the software to identify some bigger issues. I'll tell you where it really shines is that internal communication spoofing, where you might get like the CEO has requested you to wire $20,000 to this. Yeah, yeah, those are a big save, I think.
Right. Well, especially when it gives you that notification above a email. Like, we don't recognize this name.
Right. Yeah, and that's a banner on the top of whether they're using Microsoft Office or Google. It pops up a little iron scale banner at the top of like, this is probably phishing.
Are you sure it's safe? Hit yes or no.
Yeah. Which even that banner is enough sometimes to slow people down and give them a chance to think and an excuse to think. Right? Like, yeah. So that's good. That's good. And I think the other big thing to really look at in your organization is how open to change, how willing are you to improvise and adapt to overcome some challenges out there? Is that an integral part of your company culture, your organizational culture, that change management skill? I think that's big because it's, man, the world's a changing. No doubt
Yeah,
about that.
right.
Yeah. So those are the big things. And, I'd say also kind of one last thing is just take the chance to say, is this something I can change? If not, how can I change myself? That's just a
Right. I
good
mean,
way to look at life.
some people don't want to change, but change makes definitely help out.
Yeah, it's hard for someone to get better if you don't change. Yeah. And ultimately, it's hard to get worse too without change. But you could just stand still and never move and never change. And in some ways, you would naturally decay. Entropy would take hold, and you would just naturally become worse. Um, so,
They always say change is always for the better.
well, and it's always constant.
Right. That too.
Yeah, I think change sometimes gets gets us into trouble when we're changing just to change. But it,
Right.
if it's in response to a real threat or a real development, I think change is always good. Yeah. So
It's just like the landing of the moon. Once one big step.
soon we'll be landing on Mars.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's wild to think about. We're in a crazy new world of space exploration, I think. Yeah. Well, like we said earlier, we are getting back into the groove of this. Our goal is to keep these episodes approachable on a morning commute or an evening commute to keep you up to date. And in that, vein and in that spirit, we covered the bases here real quick on email security. And we really appreciate your time. And if you're looking to support us, this podcast, obviously, no ads. It's something that Tim and I do for fun. But, you can definitely like us, leave some feedback on the podcast. Those are big things. We also have some cool offerings, right? We've got A25 technologies. So if you or someone you know is looking for a trusted managed service provider, we're here to help, right? We've got Sheepdog Design Studio, which I would say is a pretty cool organization. We only offer virtual private servers. They're all USA based, and the value on them, as is the way we typically roll, is very high, and it comes prepackaged with some really useful features. And then we include also management and updates and making sure things are online, and just keeping things nice and tidy for you out there in the server world of your websites. So that's something else we offer. And then last, but more and more importantly than ever, is Bunker Cybersecurity. And in that, we offer cybersecurity, quite obviously, but, coaching, strategy. If you're in a compliance industry, if you need to meet DD 2345, you need to meet NIST 853, or if you need to meet even HIPAA, PCI, something as simple as that,
We
hey,
can do
that's
it.
what we're here for. So, yeah, we provide regular audits. We provide security bulletins, the whole 9 yards on that, and we have through that a weekly email of the latest cybersecurity news that you as a small business or medium-sized business needs to know about. And we also offer coaching. So if you're looking for IT coaching, executive coaching, anything like that, that's through Bunker. We'd love to help you with that.
That's
Tim,
awesome.
anything else to add before we end?
No, I think yeah, any kind of IT stuff you need help with, we're definitely here to help. And I mean, I'm ready to step in and give you that help. So
That's it, man. It's hard to believe we're moving into 2 decades in this business.
wow,
That's some, we're cranking up some wisdom. Yeah,
let's go 825.
I know, right? So hard to believe it started as a little, out of my first apartment, a little company helping out people, and it's grown into what it has now. It's pretty amazing.
That's
So,
awesome.
and we'll keep driving forward, making the world better, helping people out. It's what makes us enjoy life. It's our purpose. Keep learning and keep growing. So, well, for Andy,
And I'm Tim.
and we thank you for listening. We're out.